Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to your Prabhupada. Radha Mati, when are you ready? Can you start, Mati? Today's reading.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna to all dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 2. Sorry, it's Chapter 1. It's Chapter 1 or Chapter 2?
Sorry, Mati, I put the wrong one. Canto 2, Chapter 2, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Chapter 2.
Yeah, I'm sharing now again. Canto 2, Chapter 2.
Okay, we are reading from Chapter 2. Chapter 2, the Lord in the heart. From the text 14. Unless the gross materialist develops a sense of the loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendentalist and the material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. Text 15. O King, whoever the yogi desires to leave this planet of the human being, he should not be perplexed about the proper time or place, but should comfortably sit without being disturbed and regulating in the life air should control the senses by the mind. Text 16. Thereafter the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of the satisfaction, so that the cesses from all other activities. Text 17. In the transcendentalist state of the it's not that clear, Prabhuji. 1 second.
Yeah, sure. Labdopasanti. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Text. Where am text?
Here, Mate.
Okay. There is no supremacy of the devastating time, which controls even the celestial demigods, who are empowered to the rule over the mundane creation. And what to speak of the demigod themselves? Nor is there the mode of the material goodness, nor the passion, nor ignorance, not even the false ego, nor the material causes ocean or the material nature. Text 18. The transcendentalists desire to avoid everything godless, for they know the supreme situation in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Therefore, a pure devotee who is in the absolute harmony with the Lord does not create perplexity by worship the lotus feet of the Lord at every moment, taking them into his heart. Text 19. By this
I think we're reading the wrong chapter, I think. Vamsi, this first chapter, second canto, right?
Chanto 2, chapter 2, right, Prabhuji?
I see the verses. Is first chapter looks like. Let me see. What is yesterday we did? Yesterday we did also first chapter. Once you prepared for first chapter only?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's first chapter only.
Yes, Prabhu, I read first chapter.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, chapter 1, first step of the God
Yeah.
realization.
From text 14 again, Mati.
Yeah. So, sorry, devotees. Today we are reading from Chanto 1, chapter 2, chapter 1, the first step in the God realization. Text 14. Maharaj Parikshit, now your duration of the life is limited to the 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life. Text 15. At the last stage of the one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all the attachments to the material body and everything pre-training to it and all desires thereof. Text 16. One should leave home and practice self-control in the scared place. In a scared place, he should bathe regularly and sit down in the lonely place lonely place dual sanctified. Text 17. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the 3 transcendental letters AUM, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seeds. Text 18. Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, withdraw it from sense activities, and by intelligence, the sense will be controlled. The mind too, observed in the material activities, can be engaged in the service of the personality of the Godhead and become fixed in the fully transcendental consciousness. Text 19. Thereafter, you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from all the sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is the ultimate truth, and mind becomes completely reconciled by Him only. Text 20. One's mind is always agitated by the passionate mode of the material nature and bewildered by the ignorant mode of the nature, but one can rectify such conceptions by the relations of Vishnu and become pacified by cleansing the dirty things created by them. Text 21. O King, by this system of the remembrance and by being fixed in the habit of seeing that all good personal conceptions of the Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under his direct shelter. Text 22. The fortunate King Parikshit inquired further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in the person's mind can be removed. Text 23. Sukadev Goswami answered, one should control the sitting position, regulated the breathing process by the yogic pranayam, and thus control the mind and senses, and with the intelligence apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the Virat Rupa. Text 24. This gigantic manifestations of the phenomenal material world has the whole is the personal body of the absolute truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future of the material time is experienced. Text 25. The gigantic universal form of the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal shell, which is covered by the sevenfold material elements in the subject for the Virat conception. Text 26. Person who has realized it have studied that the planet known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the universal Lord, and the toes are the Rasatala planets. The ankles are the Mahatala planets, and his shakes constitute the Talatala planets. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mother. Hare Krishna. And once you improve, you can continue, Prabhu.
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नक्षत्रप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्ग्रये ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादि सतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So we're continuing chapter 1. So Saranam Prabhu, he completed until verse 13. The theme until verse 13 was in this chapter, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is beginning to speak to Parikshit Maharaj. And I was hearing one of the classes, like an ideal spiritual master, Srila Sukadeva Goswami doesn't waste time. In fact, he hits a sixer right from the beginning of his answers to Maharaj Parikshit, wherein he directly mentions that do not waste time. He directly talks about the importance of chanting of the holy names of the Lord. This is what a true guru will do. Guru will never want his disciple to waste time. Like how a guru never wastes time, he wants his disciples also not to waste time. On the same theme, from text 12 to 14, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is talking to Maharaj Parikshit about the quality of life, which actually matters, not the quantity. So Harinam Prabhu, he covered 12 and 13, where Srila Sukadeva Goswami mentions that one muhurta is itself, if you know about Krishna, one moment of full consciousness is much better than wasting a prolonged life of not knowing Krishna. So what is the use of living for 70, 80 years without understanding the true goal of life and hearing about Krishna? One full moment of consciousness is good enough. One muhurta is enough. And he gives, so what is the example in text 13? He gives the example of Maharaj Katwanga, where he actually fought for the Devatas for a long time, and then they gave him a benediction, and he was very intelligent, and he mentioned that I would like to go to planet Earth where he can perfect his life. So also gives us a kind of a warning that we are also on planet Earth and we should never waste time on the same lines. In text 14, on the same lines, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is saying, he's reminding Maharaj Parikshit that you have been cursed by the Brahman, Shringi. Now you have 7 days. 7 more days at your disposal. So take advantage of the time to prepare yourself for next life. Something for us to contemplate. Maharaj Parikshit has been given 7 days, but we really don't know even whether we have 7 minutes, to be really frank. Right? None of us know what is going to happen to us. So we should be even more intense. We should take all these instructions correctly for us. And then Srila Sukadeva Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that he should take shelter of the sound representation of the Lord for 7 days, still remaining in the duration of his life, and thus get himself liberated. So now Krishna comes in various forms. He has come in the form of his holy name. He has come in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is not different than him, because the sound representation of Krishna is absolute. There is no difference. Of course, chanting the holy name of the Lord is the prominent way of cleansing our hearts in this age, but hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different on an absolute platform. So Prabhupada writes a very important statement. Everyone can best prepare himself or herself for the next life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as it was recited by Srila Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. But Prabhupada puts a catch. But there are also some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out. So the favorable conditions are the person who is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam should be realized soul, and then the person who is hearing should be receptive, should be very intensely, eagerly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like Parikshit Maharaj is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as though his life is going to end in 7 days. He's intensely hearing every single drop of word that is coming from Sukadeva Goswami is getting straight into his heart. No distractions, nothing else. In that mode, he is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. If we can hear Srimad Bhagavatam like that every day, we will definitely see a difference in our life. This is what Srila Prabhupada is saying. And 15, Srila Prabhupada is saying, at the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough to be not afraid of death. And that is how we have to prepare ourselves. And Prabhupada, he narrates in his purport that all the philosophers, scientists, and great statesmen, they are all foolish because they don't have any information on the soul. They think that this life of a few years is only all in all, and there is nothing more than death. But Prabhupada is saying this is just poor fund of knowledge. We are just, because it's killing the vitality of human energy, an awful result is being keenly felt. Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita, our body changes, so similarly the soul also passes. So Prabhupada is saying death is therefore a process of changing body. That's all. That is the realization that we need to come to. Initially we read all this from Bhagavad Gita, but over a period of time, because here Srila Sukadeva Goswami is saying we have to become fearless. And Srimad Bhagavatam says that we can become fearless only when we take shelter of Krishna. There is no other way that a person can become fearless. Right? In the 11th canto, it is mentioned that only by remembering Krishna we can become fearless. And Prabhupada says an intelligent person must be prepared for this and must try to have the best type of body in the next life. So we have to prepare. Who is intelligent? And person who is intelligent is when they hear from realized souls. That's when we become intelligent. Otherwise, our intelligence bewilders us. So Prabhupada says one must prepare when? Now for the next life. I don't want to postpone what I want to do. Maybe, okay, let me settle my stuff with my personal things, my family, my extended family. No, now. Because nobody knows how long we are going to live, right? So Prabhupada then says, while he gives an analogy. While sleeping, we have little experience of what we are dreaming at night. So the bodily relations are also temporary, Prabhupada says. So death is nothing but sleeping for a few months in order to develop another term of bodily engagement. In fact, Prabhupada in another purport in Bhagavatam, he says 6 or 7 months. Death is simply but sleeping for 6 or 7 months. That's all. And then we enter into another womb of a mother. So Prabhupada says, for this, there is need of training in the current duration of human life. So we need to be trained under the guidance of a bona fide guru. And this training can be begun at any stage of life or even few seconds before death. So it doesn't mean that, this person is very old, he doesn't have a chance. No, Maharaj Katwanga, he showed us an example. Of course, a moment in the heavenly planets is at least few months or few years in earthly realm, but it doesn't matter. So Prabhupada is saying, even if a person is at a ripe old age, there is no impediments for practicing bhakti. Anybody can perfect life very quickly. Right? Something for us to meditate on. And then Prabhupada says, therefore, one needs to give up attachment to family at the age of 50 years or if not earlier, and the training of Vanaprastha and Sannyasa Ashrama is given for the preparation of next life. So Prabhupada is essentially saying that giving up means not just giving up. We have to transfer our attachment from family to the devotional service of the Lord. That will be mentioned in the future verses more. So one must develop desires for returning back home, back to Godhead, and automatically the desires for material gain and popularity will diminish. The more we want to get closer to Krishna, all the material impediments and our desires for material enjoyment will gradually go away. This is Prabhupada's statement, so we have to take to it. So in text 16, one should leave home and practice self-control. Srila Sukadeva Goswami is beginning, because from 15 to 39, he is going to talk about Ashtanga Yoga process. Very interesting, right? Because Harinam Prabhu in his set of verses, where Sukadeva Goswami is saying he was Brahman realized, but he got attracted to Krishna's pastimes when he heard, and then he got trained by Srila Vyasadeva. So such a person suddenly transforms into talking about Ashtanga Yoga, right? Very interesting. We will see why. Maharaj Parikshit, Prabhupada mentions in one of the purports. So he mentions that to prepare Prabhupada, right, to prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of one's so-called home. And Prabhupada details what that home actually means. Okay, physically also home is there, the comforts and material comforts and so many other things. Because in general, the tendency is, I have got enough savings, 401k or whatever, and I want to enjoy my life. Right? That's the culture here, at least in the West. People want to go to places where it's completely quiet, probably down south, anywhere, and then simply lead a life. In fact, one of the disciples of Prabhupada, he said that when we can understand the value of a certain country or a state by knowing what the people in their old age are actually doing. And in the West, what people do, in the end, they don't have any other job. They don't have family. Of course, they leave all their families and probably husband might go, but what do? They play checkers, sitting, because they want to kill time. Because they don't know what is the aim of life, unfortunately, in the West. But because we are coming from a culture where this is all naturally laid out, people, when they are, at least our grandfathers and great-grandfathers, when they are in the later stages of their life, they simply cut off their connections with their family. And Prabhupada says what the cutting off of the family means. To live apart from family life means to become self-controlled in regard to all sense desires, especially sex desires. This is what actually means leaving family. Something for us to meditate. Prabhupada writes many things in the purport, but this is what we need to know or realize when we are practicing bhakti, is to control our senses and our mind at our later stages of our life. That is what actually means leaving family. Prabhupada never said, of course, Vanaprastha ashram, it can vary depending on one's life situation, but the time one takes into Vanaprastha ashram. But Prabhupada even says husband and wife can travel all over, all the holy places, and still practice bhakti, or stay in a dham and practice bhakti. But the point is to control our senses, sense desires, because the sense desires are very strong. It doesn't matter whether we are in a young age or in a ripe old age. That is the point that Prabhupada highlights in that purport. And in text 17, after sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters Om. And so he's narrating the Ashtanga Yoga process, right? So Yama, Niyama, Asana, he mentioned like we have to sit in a sanctified holy place. And then now he is coming into breathing exercise in text 17, pranayama. So Prabhupada says the quality of engagement by the mind has to be changed. And Prabhupada says, because mind has thinking, willing and feeling, because mind keeps taking us, we have the experience while chanting the Mahamantra also, right? Mind keeps taking us somewhere else. Omkara is the seed of all transcendental sound, and it is the only transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of mind and senses. And Prabhupada says, Krishna quotes in Bhagavad Gita that he is Pranava. Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. He is Omkara. He is not different from Omkara. If anyone chants Omkara, that's not different from chanting Krishna's names. Because Prabhupada writes, Omkara is a note of address. O my Lord. Just as Om Hari Om means, O my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Prabhupada writes, the devotees directly fix their mind on the absolute truth, but one who's unable to accommodate such personal features of Krishna, then they can chant Om, because Om is directly addressing to Krishna, but to his impersonal aspect. When people cannot or doesn't have the access by the mercy of acharyas and devotees directly to the personal form of Krishna, Krishna is very merciful. He is giving an impersonal aspect to people who don't have access to his personal form. That is by chanting Om. And by chanting Om and regulating breathing, pranayama is performed. And then text 18, pratyahara and dharan. So withdrawing the mind from the senses and fixing the mind on the Lord's form. Right? By practicing Omkara, one ultimately reaches to the stage of Samadhi. But Prabhupada says Samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. That is a problem. See, mind can be artificially controlled, but if I'm posing to be a sadhu, but my mind is going somewhere else, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd chapter that I'm a pretender. I may pose myself to be a devotee, I'm trying to control my mind, but my mind goes to the object of senses. So I'm a pretender. So Prabhupada says it's very difficult. So Prabhupada gives example of Vishwamitra Muni. Even at the stage of Samadhi, became a victim of the senses and cohabited with Menaka. By the tinkling of her ankle bells, Vishwamitra got attracted. Several examples even in the 9th canto, Shaubari Muni, right? When we become so much puffed up that I have control over my mind, that is when Krishna's material energy will really shake that person. Krishna's energy is so strong, we don't realize how strong is Krishna's energy. Slight inattention in our bhakti, we are taken over by Krishna's energy. If performed, but Prabhupada says, mind can be controlled, but one should engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by different devotional activities like hearing, chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, as much as we are able to practice. But if performed under proper guidance, that is the surest path of progress, even for the disturbed mind. So we need guidance. I cannot practice bhakti by myself, thinking that I am transcendental, I am liberated, I am a pure devotee. It will not work out. Even after coming to bhakti, we need guidance. And then in text 19, Prabhupada says that this meditation may be begun from the, so he's talking about meditation on the form of the Lord, right? Dharana. So from the lotus feet of the Lord, one should gradually progress. Even for people who are aspiring for Ashtanga Yoga, one has to meditate on the form of the Lord. It cannot be on the impersonal form, right? Otherwise, meditation beginning from Omkara up to the limbs of the personal body of the of Lord Vishnu would not have been recommended by Sukadeva Goswami. Why? Because the Lord is not impersonal. Sukadeva Goswami has already realized Krishna's form. So even though he is giving Ashtanga Yoga process, he is asking the hearers to meditate on the form of the Lord. So Prabhupada writes, why this Ashtanga Yoga? Because the common man can benefit more by meditating on the form of Lord Vishnu in the temple than Omkara. Prabhupada says, seeing Krishna or Lord Vishnu in the temple is not different from chanting Omkara. That common people don't understand. Only devotees understand There is no difference between Omkara and the forms of Lord Vishnu, but persons unacquainted with the signs of Krishna try to decision by differentiating between forms of Krishna and of Omkara. So for people who cannot concentrate on Krishna's form, actual form as deity in the temple, which is not different from the form of Krishna in the spiritual world, right? We need to have that vision, and that vision comes only by hearing to realize souls. Because we cannot see Krishna with this, we will see Krishna as some material form in the temple. Prabhupada says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. Only by anointing with the pulp of love that we can see Krishna with these eyes. But do we have that love? I don't have that love. But that ointment of pulp of love, that's available only with the sadhus. And only by associating with such sadhus who have that love, we can have some trace of seeing Krishna in the temple. Right? And in text 20, text 20, he continues to talk about Dharan, and he says that one's mind is always agitated by passionate mode of material nature and ignorant mode of material nature. And Prabhupada says that it is very difficult if you are in the mode of passion and ignorance for God realization. Doesn't matter whether somebody is practicing Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti. So we have to always come to the point of mode of goodness at least. It is very difficult to practice if you are in passion and ignorance. Because Prabhupada says, actually, the heart is impure on account of being devoid of the knowledge of the personal absolute feature of Krishna. To acquire such qualification of God realization in personal feature, the neophyte impersonal is given a chance to realize the relation of the Lord in everything by the philosophy of pantheism. So everything is created by material energy can be dovetailed with the absolute by an attitude of service. So Prabhupada says this service attitude is important. The other day also His Holiness Janardhan Swami Maharaj, Bhakti Anugrah Janardhan Swami Maharaj was mentioning this point, that this service attitude is very important as we grow in Bhakti. One devotee asked, how can we check ourselves? Am I growing in Bhakti or not? And Prabhupada writes exactly the same thing in the purport, that the service attitude is what is needed. That is what is seen in a devotee when we grow. And only in that devotional way can the theory of pantheism be perfected. So even though a person who's chanting Omkara and meditating on the form of the Lord, if there is no service attitude, it's very difficult for them to progress, even in the path of Ashtanga Yoga. And text 21, O King, by this system of remembrance and by being fixed in the habit of seeing the all good personal conception of the Lord, okay, meditating on personal form of the Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under his direct shelter. So Krishna is being very merciful. For a person who is not able to take up to bhakti directly, he is giving indirect way, so that by meditating on the impersonal form of the Lord, by practicing the Ashtanga Yoga process, the person will eventually come to bhakti. So now Maharaj Parikshit is further inquiring, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied, and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in the person's mind can be removed. Mind is full of dirty things, right? Whatever we associate with is what our mind contemplates. So we have to be very watchful. What Prabhupada starts with straight point, dirty things in the heart of a conditioned soul are the root cause of all troubles for him. Right? We should be very watchful what we are associating with, whom we are associating with. Because that's what will contribute to all the dirty things in the heart. Right? Watching YouTube, so many things, because today so many things are very prevalent. Just in the name of bhakti, we will try to hear something, YouTube will come, some flash will come, some ad will come. So many things we are bombarded every single day. Right? All those dirty things go in our heart. He is actually meant to serve the will of the Supreme Lord, but on account of the dirty things in the heart, he likes to serve his concocted desires. This is how the dirty things enter. Through our senses, it enters into our mind and into our heart, which is our mind. Right? And that's how we get concocted desires. But Prabhupada says the dirty things of fruitive work and empiric philosophy can be removed only by the association with the Supreme Lord. The Lord, being omnipotent, can offer his association by his inconceivable potency. We don't realize by chanting Krishna's names, by hearing Krishna's pastimes, by studying Srimad Bhagavatam every day, by associating with devotees and exchanging Krishna Katha, by doing all these things, Krishna is inconceivably cleansing our heart. We don't realize. Like Sunandas Prabhuji, he will always say that you just look back at ourselves. We don't have to look back at someone else. Just look back at ourselves few years ago, how we were and how we are. Some change will be there. All this is done by Krishna, not by us. That's why Prabhupada says by his inconceivable potencies. And then now coming to the point, why all this Ashtanga Yoga process that's being described? Prabhupada explains that Maharaj Parikshit was already directly connected with the personal feature of Lord Krishna. Then, even before he took birth in the womb of Uttara, when Maharaj Parikshit was there, Lord Krishna came to save him from the Brahmastra weapon, isn't it? So, Maharaj Parikshit already has seen Krishna. And why is he asking all these questions? So, how to concentrate on the mind, on the form of the Lord, and Sukadeva Goswami is talking about Ashtanga Yoga process. Prabhupada writes, he inquired after a detailed description of the matter for the benefit of others who are unable to conceive the transcendental personal feature of the Lord as the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So there could be some people who cannot directly come to the form of the Lord. Okay. So this is what an ideal preacher is. Maharaj Parikshit, even though he's hearing, he's an ideal preacher. Sukadeva Goswami is the best preacher. Right? A realized soul knows what to speak, when to speak, how to speak. We see several times Srila Narad Muni, whenever he goes to different devotees, he preaches differently, according to time, place, and circumstance. He went to Dhruva Maharaj. He did not directly give only pure bhakti, because he knew Dhruva Maharaj had some material desires. So he gave mixture of little bit of Ashtanga Yoga process and little bit of bhakti, mixed. He goes to Ratnakar. Ratnakar cannot even chant the holy name of Lord Ram. Oh, okay, you can't chant Lord Ram, chant Mara, 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 Mara. It took 60,000 years. Prabhupada writes in one of the books. It took 60,000 years for Ratnakar to perfect the chanting of Lord Ram's names. Then he became Valmiki. So realized souls know what to preach and when to preach. So when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, even though he mentioned that he got attracted to Krishna, he had several thousand sages sitting in front of him. Not all of them were inclined to bhakti. So he spoke about Ashtanga Yoga process. And as an ideal disciple, Maharaj Parikshit is not cutting his guru and saying, oh, why you're talking about Ashtanga Yoga process? Talk to me about Krishna's pastimes. No. An ideal disciple will adhere to the instructions of Guru. And we are seeing that here. In text 23, 23, Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami is answering, one should control the sitting posture, regulating the breathing exercise by pranayama. So he's continuing to explain. And in one of the purports, Prabhupada is writing, the materialistic men are very anxious to some mystic powers as a result of such controlling process. But the real process of yogic regulation is to eradicate the dirty things in the heart, like lust, anger, avarice, and all such material contaminations. So all this has to go. Any form of yoga, this should be our aspiration, initially at least. We should try to pray to Krishna that please remove all the contaminations in our heart. And then his mission of yogic success, otherwise it's a failure, Prabhupada writes, because the ultimate aim is God realization. Because unless and until this tendencies within the heart are not cleansed, God realization cannot happen. We see even in the 10th canto, Krishna comes into the heart of the devotee unless and until these tendencies are not removed from the heart. And then in text 24, he talks about the gigantic universal form, where Krishna, the omnipotent Lord, has transcendental eyes, heads, and other bodily parts distributed everywhere. Although Krishna is in own abode, just for the sake of people who cannot have the conception of his absolute feature, Krishna exhibits the universal form. And Prabhupada writes, the Asuras do not accept any evidential proof from the revealed scriptures, nor do they recognize the authority of great acharyas. They want to see with their own eyes at once. Oh, Krishna is a person, show me, then I will believe. That is what people challenge generally. Therefore, they can see the gigantic body of the Lord as Virat, which will answer their challenge. And Prabhupada writes, why this challenge? For two reasons. Prabhupada writes, unintelligent class of men who accept anyone and everyone as God. For them, this Virat Rupa or universal form Krishna gives. And he also wants to prove that if somebody wants to say that I am God, show me your Virat Rupa first. Then we will believe you are God. Prabhupada's name. Otherwise, people generally get misled. Right? They show some mystic siddhis, getting some powder or whatever it may be. But then they cannot exhibit such features that Krishna is exhibiting as Krishna exhibited in front of Arjuna. In fact, Prabhupada writes, Arjuna, even though was a pure devotee, he was given the vision to see the universal form. Because pure devotees they are constantly meditating on the personal feature of the form of the Lord. So Krishna had to give us a special vision for Arjuna to see the universal form. Arjuna became scared by looking at that. And then in text 25 and 26, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is continuing to talk about the universal aspect, Virat Rupa. And then in text 26 onwards, he starts talking about the planetary systems. The Virat Rupa is nothing but, Prabhupada writes, an imaginary form for the people who cannot concentrate on the absolute personal form of the Lord. So Krishna is pervading this entire 14 planetary systems, and each planet from the bottommost planet of Patala Loka, Rasatala, Mahatala, Talatala, all these are all starting from the bottom feet of the Lord, heels and toes, ankles, his calves, like that. So every planet represents one portion of the form of imaginary form or the Virat universal form of Krishna. Yeah. So Prabhupada writes in that purport, Krishna keeps his identity as supreme spirit in all circumstances and is never affected. For everything is material, everything material is contaminated. The Lord always exists by his internal potency. So if anyone wants to realize the supreme truth, Krishna, by conceiving of the universal form, he must cultivate the service attitude. That is the point. Again, Prabhupada is reiterating, even though a yogi is trying to meditate on the universal form of the Lord, he has to cultivate a service attitude. That is what Prabhupada concludes in this purport. So we'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'm offering my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vamsi Wisdom Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.